This week at the movies, he seems like a nice enough guy, but he's really some kind of international super assassin.
Tom Cruise tries to save Cameron Diaz in Night and Day.
Hey, June. It's a beautiful dress.
Also coming up this week.
Where have you been?
Sorry, I had a whole lot of trouble tonight.
Casey Affleck gets mean in the pulp noir The Killer Inside Me.
My brother is my brother.
He's gone from Vietnam to Wall Street. Now Oliver Stone heads to Latin America in the documentary South of the Border.
Plus, from risky business to Night and Day, Tom Cruise has been a movie star for almost 30 years. We'll check out some of the high and low points in our Over-Under segment.
We've lost the pilots.
Where did they go?
They've been shot.
By who?
Me. Actually, I shot the first pilot. He shot the second one accidentally. One of those things.
Austin Powers has nothing on Tom Cruise's international man of mystery. I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm A.O. Scott of the New York Times.
Folks, take a look at this action sequence from the new Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz movie, Night and Day.
Airtime.
Airtime?
Now, in order for a scene like this to work, it helps to have a decent wisecrack or two.
What next?
Let him have it.
And it helps if the action goes a little easy on the computer-generated effects. And while nobody wants anything from Night and Day other than a couple of hours well killed, it's nice when the action surrounds a couple of characters that you might actually be rooting for.
What am I wearing?
Bikini.
How did I get in the bikini?
June, I've been trained to dismantle a bomb in the pitch black with nothing but a safety pin and a junior net. I think I could get you in and out of some clothes without looking.
The Diaz character meets the spy in the Wichita airport, and pretty soon people are getting shot, stabbed, stampeded by bulls, decapitated by trains, all around the pair of them. The one thing director James Mangold's film has over the other wacky super spy meets aggravating ninny movie in theaters right now, the one with Ashton Kutcher and Katherine Heigl called Killers. Well, actually, there isn't anything this film has over Killers. It's worse than Killers. I say skip it to this whole genre and every bankrupt, overblown failure of imagination it stands for. I didn't really like it as much as I wanted to. At all.
I hated it even worse than I expected to. I don't know how to even say strongly enough, skip it. It's terrible. It's not terrible. It's funny. I mean, Killers came out, that was pretty bad. Before that, there was The Bounty Hunter. There's this whole genre of these action, romance, whatever they are, comedies.
Right.
This one really hit a new low. It was, and it's odd because these are not terrible performers. Tom Cruise has done some good work. Cameron Diaz is charming and
the director James Mangold, you know, a respectable remake of 3:10 to Yuma, you know, good work in Walk the Line.
Yeah.
Now, nothing in his resume would suggest he can really take on a huge effects-driven action comedy. But I guess, Tony, this is the thing. Do you want to see a romantic comedy that's scaled like a Michael Bay movie?
Well, that's
No.
exactly the problem.
No.
Is the whole concept of the huge effects-driven action romantic comedy is incoherent on its face and almost always unpleasant in practice. I mean, this is just a genre that shouldn't exist.
No,
and these are two people who, I mean, who should know better and who should be given better material.
If it's a first-time screenwriter, Patrick O'Neill, maybe next time. Okay, next movie. A Hell of a Woman, a swell-looking babe, The Getaway, The Grifters. You just tick off the book titles written by 20th century pulp fiction master Jim Thompson, and you sound like a criminal. Be warned, though, Thompson's stuff goes way beyond colorful and deep into sordid. The film version of one of his meanest works, the 1952 diary of a baby-faced lunatic called The Killer Inside Me, is not for the squeamish.
The trouble with growing up in a small town is everybody thinks they know who you are.
What you want?
Well, I guess I want you out of Central City by sundown. I'm gonna run you in for prostitution.
Lousy son.
Out here, you're a man and a gentleman, or you aren't anything at all.
This book's been filmed once before. In this version, Casey Affleck plays the small-town Texas lawman sent to get rid of the prostitute played by Jessica Alba. These two fall into a sadomasochistic affair, which he manages for a good long time to keep secret from his fiancée, played by Kate Hudson. Here, Affleck explains in voiceover his plans.
I knew I had to kill him. I could put the reason into words, but every time I thought about it, I had to stop and think, why again? I'd be doing something, reading a book or something, and all of a sudden it would come over me that I was going to kill him. And the idea seemed so crazy that I'd almost laugh out loud.
Directed by Michael Winterbottom, The Killer Inside Me is almost worth seeing just for the way Affleck handles this stone-cold terror. No other actor on the planet sounds like Affleck with that quavering, sandpapery voice of his. I wish the rest of the film were as distinctive. The problem isn't the explicitness of the violence, I think, though the film's already generated considerable debate on that subject. The problem is Winterbottom's uncertain pacing and tone. By the end, in story terms, the film has fallen apart altogether. Chalk up The Killer Inside Me as an honorable but frustrating attempt to contain a toxic oil spill of a character, so I say skip it.
I don't disagree with what you've said, but I think it's good enough to rent or to order up on demand where it's available now. I think you put your finger on it. Casey Affleck, it's not just that he's a fascinating actor, and he has this creepiness. You know, he looks like an innocent Boy Scout in these nice white starched shirts and so polite and tipping his hat and saying ma'am, and he's this evil, sociopathic, totally depraved killer, and he balances those aspects of the character in a really interesting and I think convincing way, much more convincing than the rest of the movie.
The movie does not support the performance.
But the problem is exactly as you say with the story. There's so many times when characters show up, you don't really know who they are, to explain something that's meant to drive the story along, the sort of the murder and revenge and blackmail plot.
Exactly.
There are flashbacks to his childhood or his youth that are completely baffling, that are meant to explain his sexual hang-ups.
Thompson's a fascinating figure. He's done amazing work as a screenwriter on everything from Kubrick's The Killers to Paths of Glory. I think the best adaptation so far of his stuff is The Grifters. This one just doesn't come close. So.
Also, the French movie Coup de Torchon, which is a really good one too.
Coming up next, 2 new documentaries talk politics and warfare, and we'll tell you which one is unforgettable.
We had the upper hand.
El golpe contra Chávez tuvo un motivo, petróleo. Oil. Bush planificó la causa del golpe en Venezuela. The cause. Y de la invasión a Irak. Coup in Venezuela and the Iraq invasion. La misma. It's petróleo.
Hugo Chavez, dangerous dictator or democratic hero? If you watch Fox News, the answer is definitely A. Our next movie, Oliver Stone's documentary South of the Border, takes the opposite view. In it, Stone travels to South America to meet with some of the continent's new leftist leaders, and he makes no secret of how much he enjoys their company and admires them. Here he is with Chavez.
Esos muertos, yo los cargo.
Those that are
It's part of my commitment.
As a soldier, ex-soldier, I understand.
And here they both are, hanging out with Lula da Silva, the former steelworker who's now the president of Brazil.
Eu, pessoalmente, não tenho nenhum interesse de brigar com os Estados Unidos. A única coisa que eu quero é ser tratado em igualdade de condições.
Too much of this movie is about Stone's fawning regard for these powerful men. He's an annoying presence, both on screen and in voiceover, who nearly sabotages his own movie. I say nearly because it's actually fascinating to listen to what these leaders have to say about the movement they represent, which is not very well understood up here in the North. So you might say that they almost save South of the Border from its maker and make it worth renting.
Why would you rent this thing? It's galling. This movie it is the most shallow, and I don't care how you vote or what you think of the accomplishments of these various, South American leaders, but this is, to me, just Oliver Stone going down South American way and collecting left-wing trading cards, essentially. I don't think you get anything deeper than trading card information on anything that's going on.
I think you actually get extended interviews, granted, sympathetic, shallow questions, but
yes.
I think that Evo Morales and Nestor Kirchner, the former president of Argentina, and Lula da Silva and Chavez himself give a very interesting account of themselves and what they're doing. And I think that actually, as I say, in spite of Stone's own considerable naivete, it does work to illuminate you a little bit about
I guess
this phenomenon.
maybe to a degree, if at the midpoint Stone himself hadn't just interjected himself as kind of a major player along with him on camera. No, thank
He
you.
also should have hired someone else to do the voiceover narration.
And a different director, I would say, too.
Made a movie about something completely different. A mixed to negative verdict on that one, but there is an outstanding new documentary out there about a topic that could hardly be more urgent, the war in Afghanistan. It's called Restrepo. Journalists Tim Hetherington and Sebastian Junger spent more than a year embedded with a group of American soldiers in the Konagal Valley in eastern Afghanistan. Quite a contrast to Oliver Stone's tour of presidential palaces. We get a vivid sense of what goes on in an area that has some claim to being called the most dangerous place in the world.
We should be firing on those here right now. Break.
Hang it! Fire! Fire!
And we also get to know the young men who live with that danger every day, trying to fight a determined enemy, win over hearts and minds, and just keep themselves together.
I've been on about 4 or 5 different types of sleeping pills and none of them help. That's how bad the nightmares are. I prefer not to sleep and not dream about it than sleep and just see the picture in my head is pretty bad.
There have been a lot of movies, fictional and not, about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but this one is exceptional because it shows you, without rhetoric or spin, but with sympathy and clarity, just what's going on. I say see it.
See it. It's the best thing I've seen in a long time, really, documentary or dramatic feature. Tony, the echo here, I think, is The Hurt Locker in terms of... And that's a film. The Hurt Locker is a film that had there were some complaints in some quarters about the veracity, the accuracy of some of what was going on in there. You know, it's a fiction realm, it's a different thing. But this film, honestly, I can't imagine anyone sort of anywhere on any political spectrum finding fault with the methods of the film and just how closely attentive it is to every single soldier's individual state of mind.
It's like it's not for nothing that both of the filmmakers are journalists, because it does have the sort of the density and the sense of character and story and immersion that the best long-form written journalism does. You just really feel that the people who made this film were completely inside it without ever being in it, without ever you know, imposing themselves in between the camera and their characters.
Right, and I would say, too,
tell the story.
It's no trick necessarily to get embedded the way these filmmakers did with this particular group of men, but it is a trick to come back with a film that's this rich and really disturbing, and I really, really hope people find it.
It's a fantastic movie. Coming up next, Tilda Swinton plays the Russian heroine of an Italian movie. Is there anything this actress can't do? We review I Am Love.
Quando sono arrivata a Milano, ho dovuto imparare a essere italiana.
Time to take a look at some smaller movies now in theaters. First is I Am Love, starring Oscar winner Tilda Swinton. Now, Swinton in this plays a woman who emigrated from Russia to marry into this very, very wealthy family in Milan. She's in maybe a bit of a midlife crisis, and she falls for the friend of one of her children, of her son. And it's in a way a very simple story with a hint of melodrama, but it's so beautifully done. I just thought she was amazing, and the filmmaking, the director Luca Guadagnino did just a wonderful job of conveying this woman's emotional gathering storm.
I liked it. I'd say see it too. It's more than a hint of melodrama. I would say it really kind of a tidal wave of it. But what you have is you have an actress who just plays every moment for keeps without milking it, you know, and I think you have a wonderful score by the composer John Adams, which gives it an entirely different kind of flavor than
really
many other films like it.
A very deep, intense emotional coloration, even beyond what the actors are doing. Beautifully directed too.
Yes,
my God, what camera work.
And also in theaters, another tale of irrational love from the French director Alain Resnais, Wild Grass.
Et bien voilà, je voulais vous remercier.
C'est tout.
Quoi d'autre?
Vous me décevez beaucoup.
Tony, one of the most peculiar love stories I've seen in a long time. Andre Dussolier plays a man who finds a wallet in a car park, returns it to its owner, and from there it becomes kind of the most elegant stalker film I have ever seen, where he basically kind of falls not in love, some sort of obsession going on with the woman whose wallet it is, and I liked it a lot, and there's no reason on paper I would, because the story makes kind of no human sense, but Renee's craft and just the elegance of the filmmaking is so assured that I was with it, not including the ending. I thought the last minute was truly one of the oddest minutes of my film-going life.
And I felt it wasn't enough for me. I grant the craft. I grant, this is the guy who made last year at Marienbad, Hiroshima, Mon Amour, Muriel, Providence, one of the masters of French cinema. All respect to him. But this just did not work for me. It was too oblique, too arch, too much about its own formal decisions.
I found his high comedy very, very potent. I liked it.
Not for me. Coming up next, Michael Phillips in his underwear, lip syncing to Bob Seger. You won't want to miss our very special Tom Cruise over under.
You will not take my soul, no!
Did we underrate Night and Day? Is that even possible? Tom Cruise has been a movie star for almost 30 years, remember Risky Business, and has appeared in more than 30 movies. Did he have us at hello? Can we handle the truth? What are the most underrated and overrated of Tom Cruise's many film roles?
Did we underrate Night and Day? No, we didn't.
Well, 30 years from now, are we going to say, that was...
Okay. A long career. When you think of, back to 1981 with, Endless Love and All the Right Moves, when he was just, third kid on the left. But, yeah, it's kind of been a remarkable career. For my money, the underrated performance is in Michael Mann's Collateral, a film that was a success at the box office, and people certainly appreciated, I think, both performances by Cruise and Jamie Foxx in that great L.A. noir tale.
We're into Plan B. Still breathing? Now we got to make the best of it. Improvise, adapt to the environment. Darwin. It happens, I Ching, whatever, man. We got to roll with it.
Great digital cinematography, too.
Yeah, and an early, really fine example of what you can do with the digital. But I think what Cruise is bringing out in that part, he's playing. It's a kind of a cool movie star part, but it's not the sort of boyish, kinetic thing that he'd been doing so many other parts. And what you have in that performance, I think, Tony, is a sense of quietude and real menace that doesn't feel external and like this.
He's playing the heavy, and I think that he often does best, especially lately, when he's going against that sort of, young man on the go, up-and-coming, aggressive winner guy.
So what's your underrated?
Well, mine is Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia, where he plays a motivational speaker who's almost like a knowing parody of those aspects of his personality.
I am the one who's in charge. I am the one who says yes, no, now, here.
He basically runs these workshops, telling other men how to dominate and control women. And he has a backstory involving his father. It's a wonderful, very strange, very polarizing movie. Some people hate Magnolia.
Brilliant piece of casting, though. I think,
because he's playing, you recognize him immediately as Tom Cruise, and he's taking this character who is kind of a Tom Cruise character in a very dark and evil and ugly direction.
Right. No, I think the more character parts he plays, the better he's going to get. For my money, the overrated performance would be something. Well, I guess Top Gun, a film that absolutely cemented his movie stardom. It's a film that, for my money, I don't have a ton of interest in anyway, but he is outacted in so many scenes by people like Val Kilmer and Kelly McGillis. I think he's struggling to fill the movie star role in that in a way that doesn't interest me.
Yeah, well, my overrated is from the same era, and he's mismatched, I think, in it with Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. And this, for me, is a kind of right down the middle Tom Cruise performance, because he's the arrogant, cocky, shallow, self-involved guy who has to, at the end, learn a lesson, learn to care, learn to love. I never get to that part. I never get to the redemption of the character. I just think this guy's a jerk. Also, I think the movie is really does not stand out.
Not a great Oscar winner at all. No. And I'd say I think that
and borderline
that performance belongs to a genre of sunglasses acting. That's kind of what's going on. on there. Coming up next, can't decide what to see in theaters? Stay tuned for My 3 to See.
Play date with destiny.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago, Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
In a summer lousy with sequels and remakes, Pixar has at least partially come to the rescue. Number 3 on My 3 to See, Toy Story 3. Not quite up to the inventiveness of the first two, but worth seeing. Number 2, Winter's Bone, a good, flinty drama set in the Missouri Ozarks, featuring a spectacular performance from Jennifer Lawrence as a young woman searching for her father and coming to terms with an extended family that would curl anyone's toes. And number 1, the terrific war documentary we just talked about, Restrepo, and I hope people seek it out.
Me too. That's it for now. We'll leave you with a recap of this week's show. Now you can join the discussion by following us on Facebook and on Twitter. Just go to atthemoviestv.com to find out how.
And join us next week for the reviews of The Twilight Saga, Eclipse, and M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. And until then, we'll be at the movies.